Okay, welcome to today's class, guys. Um, and today we are going to do something very exciting, right? We are not going to really look much into uh data types today, right? We are going to do something fun, something that I'm sure people that are in this class would have been saying, how do like when do we start doing this thing, right? You're coming to learn backend with Node.js, right? So we've not started writing backend code and you want to really start writing backend code. So here's the class. Okay, of course. So today we are going to talk about what is NPM, how is it important, why is it important in our life as developers using Node.js, right? And then how we can also set up Express server, right? Because there are libraries or frameworks that you use to write your backend, right? And one of those is Express. So Express is one of them, right? There's Nest.js, there is Adonis, there's Happy.js, right? So we are using Express.js in this cohort, right? Okay, so let's look at the topics we are going to cover today. So we're going to look at introduction to NPM. Sorry about that. Introduction to NPM, how to install packages, right? How to remove packages, and any other thing that comes with NPM, right? And then how to install and set up Express. Those are what we are going to look at in this class. Okay, so let's dive right into it. Okay, so let me reshare my screen. Let's go to VS Code now. Right, so what am I doing? Sorry. Okay. Okay, so let's start with NPM. What does NPM even mean in the first place? Well, some people would argue that NPM doesn't have a full meaning, right? I've heard that debate before. NPM is just a place you can put your package and anybody uses it, right? While some people say NPM is an abbreviation and the full meaning is Node Package Manager, right? So that is not important because
Sorry, sir. Please, can you zoom your screen? I can't see it.
okay, so that's done. I hope you can see it
Okay.
now.
Yes, thank you.
Okay, you're welcome. Don't mention. Okay, so what do you use NPM for, right? No, so I was talking about the abbreviation. So nobody's going to come with a gun to your head to tell you what's the full meaning of NPM, right? Don't mind me. So, what do we use NPM for? We use NPM to manage or to host our packages, right? We use it to also install packages. We use it to remove packages. So what are even these packages are we are talking about, Seth? Okay, what is a package? Right, so a package is just a piece of or a library of code, right, that is being hosted on NPM, right? That we are talking about NPM packages that are written with like JavaScript, right? Any package that is written with JavaScript is hosted on NPM. So if you want to use that package, you have to run a command with the name of that package. For example, if I host a package on NPM and I call it Victor, for example, you have to run a command with that name of the package, which is Victor, to install it or to remove it from your project, right? And any project can actually be converted or can be hosted as a package. For example, I can just create a file, a folder, and then a file inside that folder, and maybe that file just console.log hello. I can post that as a package on NPM, but of course, who will download that package? Nobody, because it doesn't have any use. So what is the usefulness of packages, right? So packages make like your work simple, right? It makes, so there are common problems that you might face or you would face as a developer, right? which you would want to solve every time. Let me take an example. If you build websites, right? If you're a front-end developer, I mean, people that have had experiences with React.js, right? When you want, if you're building a website and you want to format the dates, you know that it's something you will almost do almost every time you're building a site, right? That has to do with maybe data. When date comes in, you want to format it. You won't show it exactly the way it comes from the back end, right? You want to format it. Maybe it should show the day. For example, maybe if the date is the date is right, like today's date, right? It should show 11th of June, comma, then maybe 2024, right? And this is something you always do. So there's a package out there named Moment. So Moment is a package that can help you format your dates easily, right? So instead of you always going through that stress of trying to format your date, right? You can just use Moment. That's an example, right? Another example I'll give is all those carousels you see. Maybe you visit the website, and the landing page, you see an image, and then the image slides to the left hand side of your screen, and another image comes in. Like most websites, right, have that on their hero page or on their landing page, right? So if you want, you know that anytime you want to maybe do that kind of a thing, you're going to definitely need something like old carousel. Old carousel is one of them. You have React slider or something like React slider, right? So instead of you writing that thing every time, like from scratch, right? You can just simply use a library and a package, an NPM package, and then do what you want, right? So what's the advantage of a package? It stops you from, or it reduces your setup time. So instead of maybe trying to build something from scratch, right? Build something you always use maybe from scratch. You just know that this library meets your need, and you use that library to do whatever you do, right? Okay, so let's see how we can set up a package. I already did so here. So I'll create a new file. I'll create a new folder somewhere else, and I would use that to set up a package. I'll soon share my screen for you guys to see where I am. Or I think I should just share my whole screen for you guys to see what I'm doing. So I'll reshare my screen. Okay, I can't share my entire screen. Okay, so this is what I'll just do. I'll go to my documents and create a new file. Although you guys are going to see what I'm doing. Okay, I can share my whole screen. So I think I should do this on the project, right? On my desktop. I'll just create a new folder. I can call that folder I'll just call this class folder. Class folder. I'll create it, and what I'll do is I'll open that folder with VS Code. VS Code. And then when VS Code opens up, I'll reshare my screen. So let's move to that new folder. Or let's move to the new VS Code. Okay, so we are finally here. The new VS Code. Let me make it bigger on my screen. Okay, so we are finally here. Now, how do you set up a package, right? How do you set up? Because your project is also a package, right? For you can decide to push down your project to NPM, right? Or you can decide to host it as a website. You can decide to host it as a server, but everything that is going to use Node.js that is going to be a big project, right, is going to be a package. So how do you start a package? Right, so let me open my terminal and then we'll start from there. So to open a project, right, or to start a new package, right, you click on new terminal to generate your terminal here. Let me clear that. So I have a fresh terminal here. What I have to do is I just have to write npm init. So npm init is you telling your Node.js trigger npm, right? Trigger npm and then create create a file that tracks the dependencies or the packages I use for my project. Okay, because whatever package you're installing, right, you have to track it. You have to know that, okay, there have to be a place to keep that list of packages. So you know that, okay, this package is on this project, right? So if you say npm init, it will ask you first, what do you want to call this package, right? The package can also be referred to as a project. So what do you want to call this package? I could decide I want to call the package a different name. Maybe I'll just say play around. Or if I didn't put this play around and I just press enter, it will just take it as the default name, which is class folder. Then what is the version of my class folder? Versioning is another huge topic, right? The first number there stands for a major change, a breaking change, right? The number in the middle, right, stands for a minor change, while the third number stands for a patch. So let me explain. When you see software, maybe they tell you, for example, React, maybe we have React 5, for example, React 5.0.0, and you see React 5.0.1. Maybe another you now see React 5.0.2. So what are they trying to tell you there? They're trying to tell you, okay, we've made some patches. So those patch just maybe might affect the improvement. Those patch might just mean renaming a variable somewhere, renaming a variable, and then that's variable is maybe just given another name, finish, and is used maybe multiple times. Or it might be a little of maybe optimizing. It might be maybe not optimizing the whole code, right? Just maybe a little part of that code. So that is like a minor change, right? Or a patch. Then if I mean for the last zero, you're seeing the last zero to the right, this one here, right? So that might mean like a very minor patch, right? Then this zero in the middle means it's a it's a minor change, right? But it's not as minor as the first one. Okay, so the one in the middle there means it's a change, like it's a recognized change, but it won't break your code. It's a change that has an impact on the project, right? Or on that package, but it won't break your code. So if you are React 5.0.0 and then you now upgrade to 5.1.0, right? The changes, right, wouldn't break your code. Okay, that changes might just mean maybe optimizing a lot of things on the code. Maybe there's a lot of things that has been optimized, or there are changes that have been made, right? But those changes won't break your code. Okay, your code will still run well, even if you're migrating from maybe, let's say 5.0.0 to 5.1.0, 5.2.0, 5.8.0, is still within that 5. So then if the first digit change, right, it means that what they've made, right, it might be that they've added new features, or they've removed features, or they've changed how features behave on that code. So moving from, let's say, maybe 5.0, right, to 6.0 means that what you're moving to the package you're moving to, right, There might be breaking changes. There might be things that you've implemented that might not work on that new package you've installed. Okay, so that's the main difference. So when they update those things, they actually know. So what they are trying to tell you is, if you just see maybe now the version of this is 1.0, if I change it to 2.0, just know that if you're migrating, you have to rewrite something on your code, because something might, in fact, something will break. Okay, so then that's it. Then description. Description is just simply whatever I want to say. What do you want to say about the project? Maybe you can leave it blank. This project is about playing around with NPM. Then entry point. Now, what is an entry point, right? So let me ask, for front-end developers, what's the entry point file for your front-end project? That's if you're writing HTML, what is always the entry point file? Like if you're running a server, right? And then someone visits your website, and your website, you just wrote HTML, CSS, JavaScript. What file is the entry point file? Like what file loads up first? Someone should try.
Index.html.
Okay, yeah. Thank you. So index.html loads up first, right? So we can rightfully say that the index.html is the entry file for the front end. Abi? Now, the same way you have that entry point file that loads up first before every other file is being accessed, right? That's the same way you have entry points on your back end. Even React has its own entry point file. I think it's main.js or main.ts. But every time you're going to load up a project, right, there have to be an entry point file. So that entry point file is just the file that project makes reference to once you want to start that project up. Okay. Someone is admiring someone else's voice. Wow. Okay. So that's by the way. Now you can decide to rename your entry point file, right? You can leave it as index.js, right? Or we can change it to any other thing. I like changing mine to app.js, right? So if I'm changing it to app.js, it definitely means that I have to have an app.js file on the root of my project or my package. So I press enter, test command. Now, test command is used if you're also going to include test in your project. So test is another very huge topic, huge topic. So what is test now? Okay, test is but let's just talk a bit about test. Now, a test is just a simple, it might be simple or it might be complex, but it's just a piece of code that is written to ensure, right, that your implementation is working the right way. Okay, so front end can write test, back end can write test. Okay, so your test might be, oh, get this data, and then this is what I'm expecting in return once I supply this data. Or this is the input and this is the expected. So your test just evaluates your code. So it's like you saying you've written your project, right? And then you write a test to test if that project is working well. And tests are very, very important, especially for big projects. So let's say you're working in maybe Google or Facebook or one of those. In fact, not even the company doesn't even really need to be big, right? But when you're working or when you're working for a company, right, they always have to be that test, and it will save you a lot of stress. There are some kind of implementation, right, or code you would write that they work in pari passu. That's they work hand in hand. So, for example, if you want to test the cat function of a website, right? It means that before you can check out on that cart, the adding to cart must work. The showing of the total products in the cart and the total cost of those products must work. Removing from that cart must work. What else should work? And then the checkout button, right, should work. So now, if you make any change to that cart, you have to test all these things to make sure that they still work well. Okay, and it would be very stressful if you make a change and you have to do this manually. You have to test the add, you have to test the remove, you have to check if it's showing the total for the product, and then you have to now check do the checkout and see if it works properly. Like manually, it's very, very, very it's always burdensome, right? But when you're starting your project, right, it might seem not important to write a test because it's working. So if you come back like 2 months and you decide to add a feature, you decide to remove a feature, or you decide to improve, you might start being lazy to do it because you see that just because I'm changing this thing, I have to test some other routes or some other features to make sure that they are working well and nothing breaks. Now, there are different types of tests. There's unit tests, there's integration tests, and there's end-to-end tests. And I'll explain the difference between each of them. I hope you guys are writing because as this thing is as it's coming, I'm pouring it out. So if you're not writing, I don't know, maybe I might say it again in another class, but it's good that you get it now. So what's a unit test, right? A unit test is just is a test used to test a unit or a singular feature on your code base, right? So maybe you can write a singular feature. Let's take that cat, for example. You can write a test to test the adding feature alone, and then you just have that test. Once you run that test, it tests only that feature, that particular feature, and then it checks if what you wrote in that feature is working well or not. Now we have what is called end-to-end test. So end-to-end test is used to test a collection of features in your code base. So let's take, for example, the cat feature that has the add, the remove, and to view the total number of goods added, to calculate the price and all those stuff like that. Those are like different features, right? Now, you can write a collection of tests, right? To test adding of a product to a cart, removing a product from a cart, checking out, and then checking the price that was accepted for the checkout, right? That's like an end-to-end test. You're testing from one end to the other. Okay. Then sometimes people say integration tests are similar to end-to-end tests, but they still have a difference. So when you are saying integration test, it's like testing, from my understanding, it's like testing the whole, your whole project, right? Testing end to end. So unit test, right? Test a single feature, right? End-to-end tests are a collection of unit tests. So if you have an end-to-end test, it means there are small unit tests inside there. Then integration test has end-to-end tests in them. So testing your whole app, making sure maybe there's a command you just run, and then that command goes to test each of your features end to end till it reaches the end, right? Till it tests the whole thing. And if that whole integration test runs well, it means your project is perfect, it won't break, and all those stuff, right? So these are the different kind of tests. People make more use of end-to-end tests, right? Especially when you're still developing. You don't want to like write the test for your whole project, but test is actually a very big topic. Git repository. So you might want to document where you want your Git repository, like that's a link to be. You can write it here. That if if you've created the repository already, but I've not, so it's not necessary. Keywords are like tags. Like, what do you want this repository to be? If someone maybe wants to search for a repository that has a keyword you've included here, right? I mean, let's say, for example, your keyword, you're creating a carousel package, right? So what you write here is carousel, slider, all those things like that. So if someone search, at least it will help with um bringing your package at least maybe to the first 10 or so. So, but I would ignore that. The author, of course, it's me, yes, it's me. Victor Oko. License. License are a big part of creating packages, right? There's ISC license, there's MIT license, all this license. So this license are actually open source license. So ISC license, the ISC and MIT license are open source. They allow you to specify that, okay, anybody can edit my code, contribute to it, right? If your project doesn't have a license, then I'll be looking at it. I won't want to start contributing on the project, because what if I start contributing and then you now go and you opt in for a closed source license, right? So it might become a problem. But this is an ISC is open source. So after that, I'm asked, do I want to do all these things? If I press, is this okay? If I just type yes and press enter. Yeah, so we have a package.json file created for us immediately after we run this, right? We have a package.json file created for us. And now, this file contains the details of what we just did, some details. And we can edit this package.json file. Like, for example, if I want to change the description, I can come and change it here, package.json. If I want to change the name of the project or the version, I can just change it here and it's not going to break anything.
Excuse me, sir.
All right, ask your question.
Sorry to cut you. Okay. What if I just after creating a folder and open my VS Code, then I now enter the project name or the file name or whatever. Then I now do NPM init and just go straight to say yes. Would that be a problem?
Okay, no. So there's this NPM. Where is it? Where is my cursor? NPM init dash y.
Why?
Yes. So this dash y is just saying yes to whatever the system actually says. So if you use NPM init dash y, it will just automatically create everything for you with the default. So there will be no description. Your entry file is going to be index.js. The author and all those stuff. I don't know if the license will still be ISC. Let me delete this and then let's try that. So let me delete this package.json and then let's do npm init. Let me clear this first. Let me do npm init dash y. It will just say yes to everything. Okay, it still creates the ISC, license ISC. You see, it doesn't add the author, it doesn't add the description. Everything is just default. So if we come here, you see that we just have the default, right? So this is okay. This is totally fine. There is no problem with this, okay? But some people might want to create a description. Maybe they want to add a description. They want to add author, keywords. Maybe they want to add a script command when they are creating, or the test script command when they are creating the package.json. So those are the people that might more want to use the dash y. So what is this dash y self? Now this dash y is a flag. So anything you see with that single dash or double dash, right? It's a flag anytime you're running. So NPM, I know this thing people used to call red flag, but I don't have red flag here, Sha. Okay, yes, someone is asking if the package.json that's being created with dash y can be edited. Yes, of course. I can decide to add a description here. This is a description. Okay, so look at this. You have npm init -y. So this -y here is a flag, right? So the reason for this flag is they can be like other kinds of flags that you might want to use here. Maybe this -n or this dash something else, right? But -y is the popular flag, right? There might be others. There might be npm init, maybe --help, something like that. I don't know if that exists. Okay, so it exists, right? So if you look at it, help create a package, npm init package, where then the package name or package spec. Okay, sorry, npm init package spec. Okay, whatever that means. You can see there are different flags, right? Or some call it options. Init author name or author URL, init license. You can decide to share, instead of doing this with the prompts, you can write npm init, then -- author name, you write the name, author URL, and all this stuff if you want to go that long route. Okay, so you see that I wrote npm init and I wrote --help and it worked out. So help is another flag or another option you can use, right? To ask for help, right? So that's by the way. Is there any other question? So I believe there is no other question, so we can actually continue. Okay, so we've created our package.json, right? And we might want to create an entry point for our file. So for our project, remember that we said that the entry point, which is this main, is index.js. So this is what I'll do. I'll then say, I have to create an index.js file. It has to exist. Okay, then we've created that. I can do something here. I'll just say console.log, maybe hello package, hello packages, right? Now I've created that. Of course, the normal way you run it is you write node index.js, right? And you see hello packages. But then this is one advantage of creating a package, right? This one advantage, sorry. Now with packages, you can specify a script that should run. When once you run that script, it should do something. For example, I can say if I run dev, for example, that each time I run dev, I want the script node index.js to run. Each time I run the script dev, in node and index.js should run. So how do I do that? I've written a script now for that. If I want to run the same index.js, what I'll simply do is I'll come here and say npm run dev. And you see, it gives you extra information. It tells you, okay, it's this is the version of your package you're running. It tells you the name and the version, right? And then it shows the particular command you're trying to run. And then the next thing it does is it runs that command and then it shows you the output here. So remember, we wrote node index.js here, it's running node index.js here, then hello packages. Okay. Then another good thing with using packages is it makes importing and exporting simple. So you guys used to see that thing that happens with people, all these Badu tech bros, that they have plenty files. They have like 20, 50, 100 files on the side of on their Explorer, and you're like, so how did all these files work together? How is it that one file can interact with another file and another file can interact with another file and share resources with that file? So that is why we are here. So look at this. I can create another file. Let me show you how to import and export Okay, so I can create another file here. I can call that file, I'll just call it file2.js, of course. So I want to write a function, or I want to write something in this file that maybe I want to write, give me an idea. I want to write a variable and I want to write a function and export those two. So I can say const a should be equals to 5. Then I would say function greets everyone here. And then maybe I would let me make this simple. So I'll say console.log hello everyone. Oh, my screen is still tiny, sorry. So hello everyone. Okay, so we've written that out, and then we want to export this code. So exporting your code means you're giving that code, right? A public access. So anybody, any other file, right, can access those codes you're importing from this file. So now let me export. So to export, I'll say export. I'll show you how to do default exports later, but now I want to export as an object. So I'll say a command greet everyone here. Now look, this is an object though. Don't get me wrong. And remember, I said in the group that if the name or the key and the value of an object is the same, you can just specify the key, and JavaScript will understand that you're referencing that the value and the key at the same time. So instead of me writing a, then colon a, and then coming back to write, greet everyone here, greet everyone here. It's even underlining it. So, okay, you can't even do that self. So just stick to this. Just write the name of what you want to import or export. So I'm exporting this variable. I'm exporting greet everyone here. So remember that is file2. That's the name of the file I'm exporting it from. Now let's come over here. I want to import what I've written in the other file and use it here. So this is what I'll do. I'll say const, I'll just put those two brackets, equals to require. And then in this, so require is a way to say import from this file. So what's the name of the file I want to import to? I'll first write dot and slash. So dot slash is saying from this current file I'm in, show me everything. Show me, or from this current folder that this index.js file is, show me other files. So you see file2 there. So I don't need to write the .js at the end. It will automatically understand that it's a JavaScript file. Now, in here, if I click on Control and space, we would see everything we are trying to import, right? So I can decide to import greet everyone here alone. I can decide to import a and greet everyone. So I'll import a, I'll also import greet everyone. So I'll maybe down here, I can then use what I've done. I'll say I imported the value, then I'll then write a there. Then down here, I can then write greet everyone with brackets open and brackets close. So if we do that, I can then run. So if I remember what I said, we can run npm run dev and I press enter. Okay, so let's see, what is it saying? Okay, I'm used to, this is TypeScript's way of doing it. So if I'm doing it here, I'll say module dot export. So what is it saying? File can be converted to AS module. So let me see if I remove that and I say export. Let me run the code again to see. Okay, it's saying this is not a function. Module.export or that export, sorry. So it's saying greet here is not a function. Okay. Let me try that. What's going on? What's going on? What's going on? Function greets everyone here. So if I wrote exports dot
Export default function.
What did you say?
Hello, sir.
Yeah, what did you say?
Okay, I thought this is the export default function. Is that not what
Export
default export default, then the file name, I think.
Yeah, exporting default is different from like exporting an object. They are two total different things. So let's see. Maybe I'm not supposed to put the equal sign. Module dot exports. So this is wow. So what is the issue? Okay, so I'll solve this immediately. You guys should just give me some time.
Then what if you make A and greet everyone a string?
No, it won't work that way. So saying I make this to a string, no, it's not going to work that way. So just give me some time, I'll solve it. Okay, so this is module.export. Okay, so why wasn't it working before? Okay, so we've solved that issue. We've solved that issue. Sorry about that. I think it's because I didn't put an S. So if I said module.export, that's when it will throw this error. It will say greet everyone is not a function. So I'm so sorry about that. So it's supposed to be module.export. Sorry, .exports with the S at the end. So if I clear this out and try again, of course, we see it runs it properly and it shows I import the value. Let's come back to index.js. It shows I import the value, then A, which is what we imported from file 2, right? Then greet everyone is called here, right? And we see it shows the hello everyone down there. So what I made a mistake on was writing module.export instead of module.exports. That's all. So we've solved that. We can create more files and import whatever I want to do in here into this index.js. Okay. So I can decide if I wanted to export, if I want to import from a folder. So let's take, for example, I create a folder named utilities. And then inside the utilities folder, I have I create a new file. I can say maybe get the date.js. Then inside here, maybe I could just say function date, and then I'll say this should return this should return a new date, right? Of course, I'll say module.exports. So if we were using TypeScript, we'll just write export finish, and it will work out perfectly well. I'm used to TypeScript, so I made that mistake. So if we say module.exports equals to the date, we've exported the date. So the date now is accessible to anybody, whether file to or index.js, but I'll still want to import it in index.js. So this is what I would do. I would come here. I could then say const. I'll just keep that. I'll say require. And then in here, I'll make it a string. I'll say ./utilities/get the date. If I come here and I press Control and space, I'll see the function I typed in there, date. Then what I can do is I can maybe I could maybe say const today's date should be equals to the date. And then I could console.log today's date. Of course, I'd clear that if I run NPM run dev, right? We see that it shows the date, right? It shows the ISO formatted date. So 3 o'clock, 7 minutes past 3, or 7 seconds past 3 o'clock. Okay, so this is how you can import and export, right? Does anybody have any questions? So I think I should put this side by side so everybody will see how to import and export. So this is how to export, right? After writing whatever I want to export. So if you don't include the name of what you're trying to export in, like the function name or the variable name, if you don't include it here, you won't be able to export it. You won't be able to export it. So you have to include the name of the function or the name of the variable so that when you are trying to import, you can specify that same name and then import it and use. So does anybody have a question, any question? So in the absence of questions, let's go on. Let's see how we can install packages. But before we start packages, okay.
Okay, my question is, what if we say module.express? We now put we now just call it like a function. I put this bracket without putting a curly bracket, then put the date. Won't it work that way?
Look, so now I understand what you're saying. Look at this. If you decide to say module.export and you just say the date, what you're doing here is you're giving a default export. So what you're saying here is anytime you're calling this, so anytime you're calling this file, right? You don't really need to destructure the dates. That's this file name. I can call this function, whatever I want to call it here. I could decide to call this name here, or whatever I want to call it, and then I'll run it here. It will still work. So now, what I'm doing here is I'm saying whatever, anytime you're referring to this, what I've done now is anywhere you're importing this file, which the file name is get the date, whatever variable name you specify here is automatically going to be this function you're exporting. Now, the disadvantage of doing this default export is that you can only export maybe one variable or one function per folder. So what this is now going to force you to do is to force you to have what do they call it? It will force you to have specific each file will contain a function, right? Or if you have two functions, if you have two functions, let me try this. Function maybe 2. Let me try this. I think it's possible to actually install and to import modern. So you can do this module.exports.2 should be equals to 2. Yeah, I think this is also allowed. So if we come here and say w and 2, I think this is okay. So I have to do this at the end. Okay, so it's complaining here. Okay, so what I can do is I can say W, right? Or whatever I want to call it. Now, W is going to refer to the default function, which is this date. But if I want to access this particular function here, maybe I'll just console.log, this is the second function. This is the second function. If I want to access this second function, I'll then do something like console.log, no, not console.log. I'll just say w.to. Yeah. And then running w.to is actually going to run this function, right? Okay, so you can have default exports, and you can also have named exports. So what I've done here is I've named this export. I can decide to create a third function and name that the third functions export. So what I've done here is if I'm calling W directly, this is what is going to take effect, which is this first function. But if I'm calling w.to, which 2 is the name of what I'm exporting here, right? It is going to call the second function. So if I run this code, I run that, you'd see after running W, saving today's data and console.log it, and I wrote w.to, and it's showing this is the second function. So I think I said before that you can't do double export if you're doing default export, but that's not technically correct. You can actually do that. Okay, so is there any other question? Who has any other question? Or do you guys understand what I just did? Or is it too much for the head to carry? Nobody's saying anything. Everybody follow?
It's fine, sir.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
Okay, all right. Okay, so Celestine, your hand is raised. You want to say something?
My take home is that while coding now, index.js is where I'll do the actual this thing, while the utility is where I import something from?
Yes, so it depends on how you want to structure your code, right?
Okay.
It totally depends, but make sure you structure your code in a way that is going to make sense to you in the future. Because
Okay.
I used to hear of developers that push code and then come back 6 months and they don't understand what they've written. But it has never happened to me before. And by the grace of God, it will not happen to me because I try as much as possible. Now, that's because of the little things, right? There are little things you do while programming that is going to make it simple for you. First, when you're naming a function, make that function, the name of that function descriptive. Like make it really descriptive, because if you're coming back to, or if you don't want to name that function, make that function name descriptive or that variable name descriptive, you write the variable name and you can write a comment on top or below that variable name that this is what this variable is used for. Why? Because it might not just be you reading that code at the end of the day, right? It might be that you push this code and then maybe a year or two, there have to be an update to be made on that code. And the update might be from you, the update might be from another programmer that you're not even related with, hasn't seen your code before. And the person comes in and the person is looking at the code and is like, what is even going on? Because you didn't comment on your code, your variable names are not descriptive, your folder names are not descriptive, your file names are not descriptive, the way you structure your folder, right, doesn't really make sense. For example, if you come to my project, if you come to this folder now, you see utilities, you just know that everything about little things that you want to do on your projects that are not full features are inside utilities. Maybe if you see a features folder or something, you know that, okay, maybe these are features and these features might make use of some kind of utilities to work, something like that. Okay, so so now we already know that any project, any JavaScript project you go, when once you see package.json, you should just know that, oh, okay, this is a package. This is not just an ordinary project with just a file. This is a package. This is a package, right? And this is a JavaScript package file project. So it makes it simple for you. If you go somewhere and you see requirements.txt, you know that, okay, this is Python now. This is Python. You get? So number one, always make what you're doing highly descriptive enough. Okay, so let me take you guys to npm.com. So we'll see around, we'll see how that place is. Okay, so did I say npm.com? Not npm.com, but npm. So let me reshare my screen for you guys to see. Okay, let me share. Okay, so it's npmjs.com, not npm.com. Sorry about that. Okay, so we're talking about npm, right? Oh, so if you come here, build amazing things, whatever, take your JavaScript development up a notch. No. We are GitHub, the company behind the NPM registry, whatever. You can decide to read this up at your comfortable time. So now, this is where packages are hosted. So now, why packages? Why do we even need packages? Okay, so let's start from in the beginning. Let's start from why we even need packages. So for people that have used HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, right, to build websites, are there people here who has used that before? Anybody? Or am I the only person? Nobody's saying anything.
Yep.
Oh, look, man. Wow. Abby, I hope I pronounced the name well. Yeah.
Yes.
Okay. So if you remember, if you want to include a package on your projects, right? There are two ways you can do it, right? The first way is to copy the CDN link, right? And paste it on at the bottom of your project. So you write script and then you write SRC, you paste the link to that CDN or the link to the package you want to use on your project. The second way to do it is uh, you go to that CDN link, for example, you go to that CDN link and you download the uh, the JavaScript file, you put it on your project and then you link it up normally, right? Like those were the two ways of importing. Now, there were problems with importing like that. For example, if you were importing something like old carousel, for example, maybe you were importing old carousel and you did not know that old carousel depended on jQuery, for example, to work. So you just go there, you just see old carousels link, right? You just copy it like that, and then you paste it, you put it on your script, and then it's not working well, and you're wondering, why is this thing not working well? Why is it not working well? I copied the link. You might not even also know that maybe like let's take old carousel, for example, a package. Old carousel might also be depending on CSS, right? So you're there wondering why this thing is not even working. But the packages you imported or the packages you included in your project by using that link were not working, right? Or they are sorry, they are not complete, right? That's number one. Two, the link you might use might be broken. What if that package was moved from that link to another link? How do you know? So there was that need to have a kind of play store for NPM projects. So a place that you can go and know that, okay, every project that has to do with JavaScript, right? I can always come to shop them here. And this is the central place I can come to shop them. So if they are not here, then I wonder where they will be. Maybe even if they are on GitHub, but they'll also be deployed here. So for example, if I search for Express, I click Express, I click on search and it starts searching. Of course, you see the different things, but this is what we are looking. The exact match is what we are looking for. So, okay. Okay, so Prince Ekong is saying he has not used any of what I'm mentioning. Well, it's fine if you've not used any of what I'm mentioning. But you can just take some time out and try to use any of this of what I've mentioned. Okay. Okay, so this is a express, right? What we are going to use, and then how do we install express, right? How do we install express to our code, right? So, but let's go on to see how everything. So they said that for installing it, you write npm install express. These are the features: robust routing, focus on high performance, super high test coverage, and all this stuff. Or you can use express generator to generate express, right? To generate express file, then you go into that file or folder, and then you write npm install and npm start. Okay, so we are going to go through all these things. So an example, and people that supported express license MIT, they're using an MIT license. Okay, so there are other. So when if I search for old carousel, you should see it. Old carousel. Old.carousel. I'm just going there for going sake. Okay, so you can play around. This is what I meant when I say old carousel. I'm not sure they show their CDN. Okay, so CDN are for people that use HTML, CSS, JavaScript. I won't go that route. So let's come back here. So they are already showing us how we can set up our Express. So look at this. Now let's go back, right? Let's go back to our VS Code and see how we can actually use what we see here. They said to install, the install command is npm install express. So let's go back. Let me share my screen and we go back to VS Code. Okay, so we are back here. So for me to use Express, I'll rightly type npm install express and press enter. And it will start. So now what is happening? What is happening now is npm has connected with npmjs.com, looked for the package named Express, and it is importing or downloading that package to my project. Now, look here. If you come to package.json, sorry, let me close this left side. If I come to package.json, you're going to see a slight change here. I think I can close this out. Look at this, dependencies, Express. It tells us it's Express 4.19.2 we are using. Okay. Now, these dependencies, right? Now, your project depends on another, so now your project depends on Express. Express is a dependency on this project. So it's like saying you depend on your parents or you depend on your work to survive, right? Your project needs Express.js to survive. So you have Express.js written here. Then, if you also notice, we have a new folder being created here. The new folder name is Node Modules. Now, this Node Modules folder contains a lot of things that you won't even really need, right? If we go to Express and we open it, you'll see that Express is also a project that has its own dependencies. So if you look here, you see the same package.json we have, but theirs has a lot of things. See, they have a description, they have the name, they have version 4.90.2. The author is the author of Express, contributors to Express, see them, and they are I'm exposing people's Gmail accounts, but this is these are open source projects, so what anybody can see it. Okay, then look, if we come here to dependencies, you see that Express also has its own dependencies too, right? And it has its own dev dependencies. But now we are not really interested in its dependency. It also has its own entry points file. I think if we go down here, okay, so tests, if I want to test Express, I can run this. They didn't impute the test file or the entry point file. I'm not sure they did that here. It's not really necessary, but what is necessary for us to know now is that we have Express in our project. Now, whether or not you've initialized Git on this project, make sure you create a .git ignore. And in that git ignore, you have to write node_modules and .env. Just do that. Now, never in your lifetime push node modules folder. Go sleep for there. You will stay 5 hours. Don't push it all. Now, it's easier to download, right? It's easier to download or to install packages than to push it to GitHub, right? And this is unnecessary. This node modules folder is unnecessary to GitHub because it's not going to be used there, right? When you're deploying your project, right, whether it's a backend project or a front-end project, before deploying, the server is going to install the necessary packages and create the node modules package and whatever it needs before initializing or before saving your project. So there's no need for you to push this online. Okay, don't even make that mistake. You sleep there. Okay, so that's by the way, right? Okay. So let's continue. So we have package.json already. We have package log.json. So this package log.json is it has the comprehensive list of packages that you're using. That's the ones that came with the package that your own package is depending on. So wait, I hope I'm not confusing guys here. I'm not confusing you guys, right?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so you don't really have any issue here. You don't have anything to do here. Okay. What you should be focusing on is here. You have Express, which you've installed. Express has its own dependencies. Express is also a dependency. It was created similarly to how we created our own NPM init -y or NPM init, and then we started working on it. Oh, so we've installed Express. So how do we uninstall Express? Let's assume we don't want Express. You can write npm uninstall Express. And if we run that command, let's look here. Now, the dependency and the Express has disappeared. Cool. And each time, okay, sorry. You can also use npm remove Express. It's also going to work. So if we install that way, okay, let it finish installing and I'll show you something. So you would see this thing, 12 packages are looking for funding. Okay, okay, it added 64 packages and audited 65. Okay, so 64 packages came with Express, but those packages are what Express depends on. But your project depends on Express. Okay, then we see found 0 vulnerabilities. Let me talk about these vulnerabilities a bit. So you see hackers. Now, when you're writing a production level project, right? Each and every time, maybe let's say once in a week or once in a week or even once in a day, so you have to come and run npm audit, npm audit. Oh, sorry, npm audit. So what npm audit is going to tell you if your project has a vulnerability, which package is old or which package has a vulnerability and which package you should move to avoid that vulnerability. So people that hack other people's projects, right? The simplest way to hack your project is if your project is open source, right? If we can get your project and install it, right? We go through your vulnerabilities. We check, or we do this, and not we. I'm not a bad person. Okay, don't mind me. But this npm audit is being executed, right? And then it will then show, okay, vulnerability found. This vulnerability, it affects this to this version of this package, and then this is the package you need to move to be on the safe side. Okay, now if you still allow your projects to be there, now there are people on the internet that they actually just go around to they test people's project to find vulnerabilities, right? They can just decide that, okay, you created this project, maybe your company launched in 2020, and in 2020 the dependency or the express was maybe 3 point something, and there's a vulnerability in that 3 point something. I can assume that as a company, you may not have taken it serious to upgrade from 3.0 to 4.0, right? So there might be a lot of security patches or security issues with your express dependency already. So I can assume that and look for a way to break into your server using those vulnerabilities from Express. I'm just using Express as an example. When you keep working with projects, right, you would install a lot of dependencies, and you see that after sometimes working on these projects, you find out that there are some to show that, oh, your dependency has a security issue, right? And you should update it. And you might not take it serious until someone breaks in to your maybe a person gains root access or admins access to your project and starts messing around with it. So it's important. Okay, so let's write a little bit of Express.js now. Since we've written Express.js, let's do something.
Excuse me, sir.
Okay.
So how do we avoid, you say if our work is vulnerable, so how do we avoid it? How do we move the file or move the project?
No, okay, so how to avoid it is you always have you can always update your packages, right? So updating your packages will prevent or minimize the possibility, right? Or it will, let's just say, it will reduce the possibility of hackers or people being able to break into your project, right? It's going to reduce it by far. So, for example, if my NPM, or sorry, my Express is vulnerable, maybe the package is too old and there is a vulnerability in that package, there is a command. So I think that command is npm update. Sorry. That should be npm update. npm update and the name of the package. So I think if I want to update Express, I would say npm update Express. Let me see what that would show. Okay, yeah, that is it. So it's saying it's up to date already. So up to date already. So it won't update. But if I was using maybe an old version, right, of Express, right, and I do npm update Express, it will import or it will install the latest version of Express. Now, the downside to updating your package is that you might be required to test and rewrite some part of your code again, right? Because maybe if you were using, let's say, Express 3.0.0 and you did npm update Express and it's showing you npm 4.19.2, of course, you know that there's a major change that is going to break your code. So that would prompt you to test or to go back to test the whole project or read through Express 4.19.2 documentation to see what changed. Okay, so now this brings us back to testing. If after writing your project, right, and after writing it, you just stretch your body and find yourself and be like, I finished writing this project, I'm putting it online, everybody should use it. When this time comes that you have vulnerabilities in a package and you need to update it and you update it, when you want to test, you have to go start testing everything on that project. And that might not be something ideal for you to spend your time on. Instead of, now, this is what testers do. Testers will just come and just write maybe npm run test, and then maybe a command to test the whole project. Once they run that command, it goes and tests all the features in that project, and they just see, oh, this feature is breaking, this one is breaking, this one is working fine, I don't need to touch that one. Okay, this one is breaking. Okay, they just take account into what is breaking and what is still functioning, and they just go to those files and they fix it, and then they push the project, and that's all. They don't have time to start testing manually one by one and all those stuff. So test is actually important. It's important. It will weigh you down when you're writing it, but after writing it and you start using it, you see the advantage and you appreciate it. Okay, so, and also let me say, the latest version of a code of a package is not always vulnerable, right? So they actually, the reason why they brought out the new package is because they've fixed a security patch in the previous one. So before people start entering that new one to look for a way to break into it, or when people start breaking into the new one, right? The company or the people maintaining that project will release another version of that project, right? That covers those patches, okay? And sometimes those patch those vulnerabilities might come as a result of adding new features, right? Or removing some features in a way on the dependency. Okay, so I've said much about that. Let's run a simple Express project. So I would say const express should be equals to require, of course, the same way we required files, but this time we won't use dot slash because we are not requiring a file we created. We are requiring a package which we install. So to require a package, you just write the name of the package. So I'll just write express. If I press Control and space, you should see express here with these brackets. So this means this is a package we can use. So if I click on express, we have it there. Then the next thing I can do is I can come here and say const app should be equals to express dot no express, just express. This should be double S. Then the next thing I can do is I can start writing routes. So what are routes? So let me just write it first. So I'll just say app.get and I'll say / and I'll write a function here. req res. Okay, let me make this descriptive. Request response. Here I could say response.send. And I could say hello people. Okay, so what I've done now is I've written a simple route. I'm saying when once you visit this route, make sure that you show hello people. But writing this route doesn't mean this server is up and running and you can start using it. So we can now write app.listen. So app.listen is you saying, I want this server to listen to a port. Now, let me talk about what ports are, right? Now, every website, right, on the internet has an IP address, right? It has an IP address and it has ports open on that IP address. Of course, you guys know IP address now, IPv4 addresses. So people that use routers, you know 192.168.0.1. People that use this go live button. When you click on go live, you see 127.0.0.1, right? Then colon 5500. I hope I'm not speaking in tongues. Am I speaking in tongues? Am I confusing anybody here?
Not at all, sir.
Okay, so wait, love it. Abby, who said I'm not confusing?
It's Magdalene.
Magdalene, okay, sorry. So Magdalene is not the only person in this class now. Precious, Springs, Econ, Promise, Francis. Should I mention all your names? You guys are here. Tell me if I'm confusing you or not. Be honest. If I'm confusing you, no problem. Just say it. Is it confusing to you guys? Nobody's saying anything. Okay, Celestine, you can speak. Celestine Francis, you can speak. Your hand is up.
So I'm trying to follow you little by little.
Oh,
But
huh?
I'm trying to follow you little by little. You know,
Don't worry.
first
If you
of all,
lost, okay.
I'm lost. Let me find out something. First of all, we open the package .js, right? Where we now come up with index.js. Before we now move to 2, something, the 2.js.
Yeah. So this is
So,
the thing.
okay.
This is not
So all this one that we have coding that you are now writing, on which are you writing? Are you writing on the package or index or the 2.js?
okay. Okay, look.
What are the different functions of?
Wait. I know why. I totally know why. Let me delete these two files and folders. Let me delete them. We are not using them now. Now, what I was trying to do with those other two files was I was showing you how you can import and export. You
Okay.
understand? Yes.
Okay.
So that was why I created those files. So I'm not saying this is the standard way your project has to be every time. Oh. No. What
Okay.
I'm just trying to show you guys that there's what is called importing and exporting, right? You can import from a file, you can export from a file. That's what I was showing you with using those other files that I just deleted. Now, what we are moving into now is how can we create a uh, a a server, because of course you know that you guys are going to be backend developers, so you need to create a server, right? A server is just a piece of code, right, running somewhere that is listening for requests from a user. So take for example your banking app. When you open it and you put in your username and password and click login, that request is sent to a server. That server, right, is always up and listening to requests, right? And that server is listening to requests on a port online, right? But that's just an example. Now, I want to replicate similar thing, but I want to replicate that thing offline. You understand? I want to create a server where I can send a request to it and it's going to send me back a response. Does it make sense? That's what I want to do now. Does it make sense?
Yes.
Okay, so now any server you want to create, right? Offline is always going to have a default port of 127.0.0.1. Okay, that's the default port. Anytime you're running any project on your PC, whether it's React or it is whatever you want to call it, it will always have it's either it will be named localhost or it will be named 127.0.0.1. So you don't need to worry about the IP of your back-end infrastructure. What you need to be worried about is what port do you want to give it. So a port is just it's an avenue, right? You can use, or a channel you can use to access a particular service on a server. So let's take, for example, let's say a website, for example. A website has a port. In fact, anytime you do www.google.com, what you're doing is www.google.com:80, because that 80 at the end, right, is the port. But the thing is, if you just write www.google.com, it automatically understands that you're trying to access port 80, and it automatically gives you back a reasonable response.
Hello, sir.
Yeah.
Sorry, can you take it back to where you say a port is? Because you were disconnected. We didn't hear what you said there.
Oh, okay. I said a port is a channel, right, at which you can use to access a particular service or a particular resource on a server. So a a server, right, can have a port for accessing its website. It can have ports for accessing emails alone. So a port that I can send emails, maybe listen or receive emails to. That same server can have maybe a port to allow SSH, secure shell connections, and all those stuff like that. So those are like advanced stuff, right? For now, we just want to say our server should listen to the port 3000, finish. And then I can decide to do something when that port starts listening. I want to tell the user that the port that your code has started listening. So I could just say console.log server is up. So if I do that and I come back here and I run what was the command again? Okay, npm run dev. I could change this to whatever. I could change it to start or whatever. So if I come back here and I say npm run dev and press enter, what do we see? We see server is up, right? So what is happening? First, we import express to our entry point. We now say app should be equals to express. What we are doing now is we are calling express. So think of this as express being a function somewhere, right? And we are calling express as a function here. Okay, we imported express as a function somewhere and we are calling it. Now, when we call the function, there are some things that function returns to us when we call it, and it is what it is being saved in this app here. So now, when you say app.get, app.post, and all those stuff, you can then start accepting requests and all those stuff. Now, app.listen is used to listen, as the name implies. It's used to start up the server to listen to requests. Okay, so this is in fact this is another whole new topic. What are HTTP methods? In fact, first, how does a server communicate with a client? What is a client? What is a server? Okay, so a client, right, is just a piece of device that can connect to the internet that is on the user side. Let's take, for example, our phone, our laptop. If you have a television that can connect to the internet, that's all those things. Even if a fridge that can connect to the internet and air conditioner that can connect to the internet of things, all those things are on the client side of things. Now, we have what is called server-side infrastructure. So server-side infrastructures are basically infrastructures that they are actually still computers, right? But those computers have high memory space, high number of RAM and all those stuff. They sit somewhere, right? So most of them are in data centers somewhere. Those now, what happens is when you use your PC, right, and maybe you're browsing on Google, you're making a request to a server somewhere. The server might be hosted by a company like Amazon, right? You're making a request to that server, and that server listens to that your request and then okay, so let me share my screen one more time. Okay, we're finally back here. So I wrote 127.0.0.1:3000. If I press enter, what do you guys see? Can you guys see? Hello?
Yes, sir, you can see. Hello, people.
Cool. So where is it? Where is that coming from? That is coming from what we wrote, right? So I simply said when you hit the home route, right? What should be sent back is hello people. I can create another route here. I can say app.get, right? And maybe I'll say /about req res. Then here I would say res.send, and then I would say this is the about page. So let me crash this server again and start it. Then let's go to our VS Code. Now let's go to our browser, sorry. So we are back at our browser. I can refresh here, it's showing hello people. If I go to /about and press enter, you see this is the about page. Okay, so you see that what is happening now is we are sending a request to the server, right? Our server we spinned up on my system, right? We spinned up a server, or we started a server, and we are sending requests to that server, and we are getting a response. Now, anytime you write the URL of any website and you press enter, you're actually making a GET request to that URL. Okay, you're making a GET request to that URL, and you get a response if that page exists. If the page doesn't exist, then you might get a 404, which means it was not found. So let's go back here. So now the last things I'll talk about is what is this thing itself. There's what is called HTTP methods or HTTP verbs, right? I think that's what we're going to in our next class. So we have the get, we have post, we have put, we have patch, we have delete, we have options, we have head, we have a lot of HTTP methods. So if I just write app dot maybe G, you see get. If I write PO, you see post. If I write PU, you see put. PA, you see patch. So there are a lot of them, right? Now, first, we are making a GET request already if we are typing it on the browser. Now, the second thing we need to take into consideration is what is the route I'm making the request to? Is it /, which is maybe the home route? Am I sending the request, the GET request to the /about? I can create multiple routes, more and more routes as I want. Now, another thing to consider is the request handler. So now, when a request comes in, right? When a request comes into your Express backend, there has to be a handler to handle it. Now, remember what I talked about callback functions. See, this is now, this function here is a callback function. So it accepts a string and a callback function, right? And then this get does whatever it wants to do on the background and then hands over the request and response to the callback function that you're going to specify. If you guys remember when I talked about callback functions, this is where we've already started using it. So how does this work? When once we send a request here, what we get So sorry about that. Okay, so this is a handler, right? This is a handler for this about route. Okay, so this is an about route, this is a handler for this about route. So anytime a request comes to, anytime there's a get request to slash about, this is the handler that is going to handle that response. So I can decide to do anything before sending back a response to the user. Okay, this is also same here. So this is a route. So a route is just simply a path to where you want to send your request to. So we have two routes here. We have the home route, which is this one. We have the about route, which is this one. So if I want to send my request to home route, I know that what I'm going to get back is hello people. So this is the handler for that route. If I send to about, right, // I know that it is coming in here, and then I'll get a response. I'll get this particular response here. I can decide to declare more and more routes, okay? So is there any question? Does anybody have any question to ask based on what we've done so far? Is there any question?
Yes.
Okay, ask your question.
Okay, when you started to write this
I can't hear you
instruction.
clearly, sorry.
Okay, I said when you started to write this instruction, you write it after we have opened Express, right? And so you start const Express equals to require. What if after opening Express, we now use another way instead of Express here? We use like const story or const anything. Will it still?
Okay. Yeah, I get your point. Of course, remember that this express here is a variable. I can name it W here, and of course I can say W, and then I can change this up to A. And then since I've changed this up to A, it means all these ones here are going to change. So I'll just say A dot get, A dot get, then here I'll say A dot listen. This is going to work out perfectly well. Okay, these are just ordinary variables, and you calling. So this is already this is like saying when you require express, right? The default uh response, right? The default export, right, in express is what you're calling here. Okay, so but now remember what I said. It doesn't make sense for me to just name it story or W, right? I could do something like this. I can name it like this just to make it more descriptive. I know that, okay, it's expressed that I'm calling here and I'm using it here. Imagine if I named this, maybe I named this story, and maybe somewhere else in my code, maybe down, 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 I want to access it. I'll now write story. And like, let's say someone is trying to read my code, and the person sees story. The person is like, what is even story self? You get my point. But since the name is descriptive enough, express, or some people don't even name this app, some people name this server. So everybody knows that, since this is server, okay, anywhere I see server in this code, I know that, okay, it's referring to an instance of express. Okay? Does it make sense?
Yes, yes.
Okay. Is there any other question? So there's no other question. So I can create and add and subtract routes here. I could say server dot get, I'll say /add. Let me do something fun. /add /var1 /var2. Then I'll say res.send the results is I would say, yeah, const result should be equals to pass int of req dot params dot var1 plus this var2. I could say the result is a result. Of course, let me crash the server again and start it. So add value 1 and value 2. Let's go to the browser and see how this can work out. So we are here in the browser. I can decide to say localhost 3000 /add /5 /2. And it's going to tell me that the result is 7. Interesting, right? Okay, so does any other person have any question? Right? I would continue from where I stopped. I stopped today in this class. So this is called parameters, value 1, value 2, because of this semicolon, because of this colon here, they are called parameters. So in our next class, I would explain, I'll go over this again, right? I'll go over what I've done here, and then I'm going to explain parameters and how they are being used. So I believe everybody understands. If there's any question, you can ask now. So if you didn't follow through, right, you can rewatch this video on YouTube because it's definitely going to be posted on YouTube. You can rewatch it on YouTube, and then you can ask your questions on the group chat. If after watching it or while watching it, you can ask your question on the group chat. I will answer it or someone else will answer it. So in the absence of any question today, I think we can call it a day. Is that okay? And thank you very much for coming out to today's class, and I hope to see you in the next class. All right, and
Hello,
bye
sir.
for now.
Hello, sir.
Sir.